Okay, so this is Rita Carr, Chair of the Nantucket Historical Commission, calling our Friday, July 18th, 2025 meeting to order at 10:06 a.m. This meeting is being held in a hybrid format and is being audio and video recorded, so please take care not to share your screen unless it's something you want captured by the recording. We'll start with a roll call to confirm our quorum and make sure everyone can hear me. So in person, we have George Butterworth.
Here.
On Zoom, Sarah McLean,
Here.
Angus McLeod,
Here.
and myself. So that makes 4, and we have a quorum. Moving on to the agenda, first up is, well, I should also state for the record, joining us from the public, we have Betsy Tyler and Michael Harrison, and our preservation planner, Holly Backus, here for our staff liaison. Great. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? No. Great. All right, so that brings us to a staff update. Holly, do you have anything to update us on?
Nothing different than what's on the agenda, really. Trying to think of something that, one thing that I did want to bring to the board's attention is that the Beinecke family is looking at doing a rededication ceremony of the plaque that they have downtown at the wharf. They received approval from the Sign Advisory Council and the HDC subsequently to redo their plaque, and their plaque is going to have Mr. Beinecke with the Congregational Church in the background, and it will commemorate their 300th anniversary, believe it or not. But my point is that there's going to be a big celebration planned for this fall in October, and it sounds like it's going to be a town as well as other entities event. So that will be fun. And obviously, once I find out more, I'll be bringing it to the board's attention.
Great. Thank you, Holly. So then next on the agenda, we had a request for a letter of support from the Sconset Trust for their Community Preservation Commission application that they're putting forward for St. Kitty Lighthouse repairs. Holly, I know we have asked for some materials from Sconset Trust, just specifics. You know, I can't really imagine a situation in which we wouldn't want to write a letter of support for this, but it would be nice to have some additional details. Did you receive anything from them?
I did not, and I didn't get a chance to request that information last week.
Okay. So, Angus, we could hold off until August to hopefully receive some information, or I might propose that we take a vote to conditionally approve writing a letter of support upon the receipt of a draft application that we could review.
Make a motion.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll say made by George, seconded by Sarah. So George on your motion.
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Angus?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye as well. So we'll reach out to the Sconset Trust for some additional information and put a letter together upon receipt.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay, so that brings us to the Civil War Monument repair. At our meeting last month, we discussed wanting to find out the sort of like the status of where things stand with the insurance company. Has it all been signed off on? Is there do we as a town still have recourse to see changes and corrections made to the repair? Holly, did you get any information regarding that?
No, I have not been able to follow up with Drew. If I was not out this week with family, I would have done it this week before this meeting, but didn't get a chance to do that. So.
Okay. So I'm just sorry. I'm going to am going to share my screen really quickly just to bring up the photos of it that we had in our packet from last month. Because I do just really think that it is worthwhile that we continue trying to advocate for changes to be made to the repair as it exists right now, because as we discussed last month and as you can see on the screen, in addition to the fact that the granite that was used in the repair doesn't match the surrounding granite, the existing pieces, it's also, you know, it's not level. It's dressed differently, so the historic appearance just isn't really there. And, you know, we had talked prior to the repair being done about how, you know, we were expecting it to take up to a year to, you know, sort of patina and weather, but I think the problems go beyond that. Are there any thoughts from commissioners or members of the public here?
Yeah, I wonder if they can improve it without totally, throw out all the materials. I mean, even if they just sunk everything in about 3 more inches, I think it would improve the appearance, you know what I mean? Digging out and lowering it so that it wasn't so obviously in the part that holds back the dirt is so obviously higher than it used to be. But I'm sure there'd be a lot of kickback for us.
Yeah, it looks like they tried to create a barrier.
And maybe they found there's a safety in that. That
Well,
makes sense.
Part of the issue with that, George, is that the if you look at the far right post, the old one, the original one, and where the top of the post is in relation to the bar that goes across, all the new ones are higher.
Oh, yeah, no, it absolutely wouldn't fix everything, but I'm just trying to think what, you know, what could be done that wouldn't cost a gazillion dollars and lead to huge resistance, but. even
Yeah,
if
I mean-
They just lowered it, would help some, it wouldn't solve everything, but. I think
If they
we've both done-
recut the tops so that the relation was consistent from the bar, the horizontal bar to the top of the posts, they could still use the post material and where the bars attach. But yeah, sinking it down lower, definitely the curb needs to go down lower so that it's the same elevation as the other curbs. I don't think that they have to scrap the materials, but it needs a reworking.
Yes, Sarah.
So I think I brought this up the last time, but I think the biggest problem and the reason it is now looking like this is that they made this smaller. And I would argue or look at other pictures that like if you look at the grade of those plants, it's much higher now. And so my guess is that the roundabout was larger before. And so they shrunk it, which in turn created a different sort of diameter dimension around and also necessitated the higher retainage of that material on the other side. And so if they lower that, they're going to have to change the grade behind those plantings as well, because as you can see, the undisturbed boxwood is much lower. And so, you know, it's kind of the same thing that happened with the woman on North Liberty in terms of, you know, they started taking the grade down and then had the issue with retaining the roots and the plant material on the other side of it. And so I think that's partly what happened. And if you look at, you know, the amount of brick that was disturbed going around, it does look like they just made the monument smaller in terms of like made the roundabout smaller. And I wouldn't be surprised if the town said, yeah, that's probably a great idea because, you know, it's hard for people to get around and understand what's going on. But I think that's part of what the issue is in terms of why it's not exactly what was there before, in terms of, you know, the line of the retaining bars and then the material height of the lower pieces of stone. So I think it's kind of the bigger question of, did they actually put back exactly what was there in the same place, or were they tasked with somewhat changing it, or maybe using standard length material and not having to cut very much off versus ordering much longer pieces and then cutting that down to save money. So I think it begs the question, and I think someone was going to ask maybe the DPW or whoever was in charge, one, what the vendor was tasked to do, and then also where all of the existing material that were taken out has gone to, and if it's something that we can get back again.
Yes.
I must say, though, it does look like the soil is bulging over the original section there. If you look at it, it looks like it's riding high. It's not riding high behind the new ones. You see how the soil looks really prominent over the logo, but just my comment from one photograph, but happy to go poke around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want?
Yeah, so I'm Michael Harrison. I'm the chief curator of the Nantucket Historical Association. And I've actually come on behalf of the association. We have 7 historic properties that are within a 5-minute walk of this location, 2 of which are within sight of it. We routinely have this, the monument on our walking tours. We talk about it as part of the context of town. And we certainly recognize that there is very little public sculpture on Nantucket. And so the public sculpture that we have really takes on an inordinate importance and visibility in a way that it might not in certain other places. It feels to us that the monument has not been repaired in a way that's consistent with its integrity and its appearance. And I don't know all of the ins and outs of the effects of cleaning this stone to determine what the original appearance of the stone was. I do know the original stone quarry is known, even if it's not closed. The appearance to us is that the stone is just not the right stone. And the NHA would like, if possible, to help. And we weren't sure the correct forum, so we've come here. The kind of help that we think we can offer would be making connections to preservation firms and the right artisan skill sets to actually source stone that matches, which can completely be done, and also source the correct kind of skill to dress the stone in a way that's consistent with the original appearance of the rest of the railing. Many projects, much more complex than this around the country, have replaced stone and found the stone that matches. A rather extreme example that comes to mind is in New York City at Grand Central Terminal, where a number of years ago, they built a second interior staircase to match a historic staircase and match the marble exactly. And one of the firm that actually was responsible for doing that is one of the firms that I've brought on a list today of 3, A-list preservation, planning, and building conservation firms who could source this stone for the town and could recommend the right skill set people to actually do this work. The NHA obviously has no idea where the town stands with the insurance claim or payments for this work or approvals for this work. And so we realize that there may be complications because this particular repair is sort of done in a fait accompli. But since Nantucket really prides itself on its appearance, and the NHA is part of the sort of the community touting our appearance and our historic structures and our historic landscapes, it just seems to us that if there's any way that we can be of help with the town in doing this in a way that's more consistent with the original appearance, we would like to do so. So I have brought this list of firms, all 3 of which the NHA has worked with, and many other island churches and organizations have worked with, and we can vouch for. I'm happy to leave that here with the commission. I'm also happy to submit this to the town through Holly, whatever the correct procedure would be.
Great.
Yeah, I'd just like to say in passing, they did an addition on St. Paul's Church on Fair Street. They did an amazing job of matching materials. Even though the original building was old or something.
Yeah, the firm that did that is one of the firms that's on the list I'm proposing.
Great. Thank you. Holly?
Rita, thank you. I just wanted to thank Michael for that. That's very helpful. And I did want to give you a little bit of context. since this was an insurance claim, the insurance company basically already pre-selected this group to do this work. Reached basically sent their contact to me, and I spoke to this gentleman over the phone. He's been doing this kind of work for quite a while, many years. He's chair of the Plymouth Cemetery Commission in Plymouth County. It I've seen, he didn't give us a scope per se, which was a little unusual, but there was no vetting, if you will, of any other preservation minded organization. I think if this was maybe on a routine repair, it would have been a little bit easier to do that. But since it was going through the insurance company, they had to pre-select this company who's done work before. So there really wasn't much say that we or myself as staff could provide. But yes, no, there are clear questions that I have to provide to the DPW director to see if he even knows specifically some of those questions and comments that Sarah brought up. I think those are important to request. My understanding is that we do have the material on site, so that's a good thing. But we need a little bit more answer. So I agree with you. Thank you for that.
Okay, great. So, thank you for that list. And, maybe Holly, I know you have a lot on your plate right now, so maybe I can summarize these questions that we've discussed today as well as last month, to send to Drew or to whoever it should receive at town administration, or I'm not sure exactly, but, that way we can hopefully get some answers.
That would be great. If you wouldn't mind, send it to me and then I can facilitate it
Yeah.
to Drew and I'll CC you.
Okay.
Would be great.
That
Thank
sounds good. Mary Bergman?
Thanks. Mary Bergman, Nantucket Preservation Trust. Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to speak in support of Mike Harrison's comments, and also just to say that as I've been following this and listening, I think another thing that might be worth investigating is at what point is I mean, these are monuments that continually get hit, that are going to get hit. We are going to be dealing with insurance companies in the future. And when the answer is, well, the insurance company provided this, so that's who the town had to go with. How do we change that? Because the town is a National Historic Landmark. I think when I just think about stone on the island in particular, we seem to be having trouble with our curbing as it is, and it would be really great for the town of Nantucket to be able to set an excellent example of how we should be doing the best work, should be done by the town. We should hold ourselves to a really high standard. I don't think we are doing that. And it's very hard then, I think, for the town to then point to private homeowners or others who own historic structures and tell them that they must restore and rehabilitate them if the town's not properly doing it. So I just wonder to what extent, and maybe that's a select board question, issues of insurance can be dealt with, because we're always going to get like the lowest bidder. With no disrespect meant to the conservator who did the work. I don't think it's like a bad repair. It just doesn't look like what was there before.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I think that is an important topic maybe for us to discuss going forward, trying to create a better, best practices for when something like this happens, so that it's not just a contractor selected without any input from the town. Angus, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to thank Mike for the offer from the NHA. I appreciate that. And I agree with Mary's comments. It seems like something that should be in place so that we can have more confidence going into future repairs than what we're left with this time. And I agree with your comments, Rita, to have a summary of our questions and suggestions and forward them to the people Holly's going to be in touch with. And Holly, it would be great for you to be able to do that sooner than later. But I think that to have our comments from the chair will only help in your plea when you go to the powers that be. Do we need to make a motion about that letter, or are we good to just send it?
I'm not sure. I mean, I wasn't thinking of necessarily like a formal, letter on our letterhead. I was just thinking like writing up some questions in an email.
It might be good to be able to voice our concerns and have our question. I don't know. Holly, you might know how formal this should be.
I think informal's fine as an initial, these are our concerns type of thing, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Okay, great. So if there's nothing else on the monument, we can move on to our next agenda item. Thank you again.
Here, I'll give you this. And then I can email you the electronic copy.
Thank you.
That's your time.
Okay, so next on the agenda is, this sort of comes out of our, certified local government meeting that we had, together with the HGC last month, the topic of demolition by neglect and the role of the historical commission in terms of collaborating with the HGC, making referrals to them, for minimum maintenance by potential minimum maintenance concerns and violations that we see around the island. This is something that we heard from the HDC at that meeting, that they would appreciate our taking sort of a more active role in this. So I was hoping we could have a discussion on what that process might look like. It could be perhaps something we discuss at our commission meetings quarterly, or another, thing that came out of that CLG meeting was that we wanted to meet more frequently. So this could just be something that we discuss at those CLG meetings if they're happening at least twice a year. But amongst the commissioners, did you have any thoughts on what would be the best way to go about this?
Well, I think it's important to identify the properties at risk. And I mean, they're properties that we all drive by regularly. I'm not sure that if that's the route that we need to take, then we can just sort of be more conscious about, okay, here's a property at X address, and notify the HDC. But there are properties. They're not a lot, but there are that are neglected to the point that it's threatening demolition.
Mhm.
I'm seeing Holly's hand up.
Oh, sorry, Holly, thanks. Please go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to mention to the commission, and I don't even know if the HTC realizes this, but staff does work on that type of thing. There's ongoing letters of various enforcements and different stages. That's something that's usually sent by Kathy Flynn now that she's back with Plus, or even my other colleague Nikki Sheriff. who does a lot with the Sign Advisory Council as well as does the HTC's inspections, so they can receive their CO. So there's a teamwork approach to that, and both of them copy me on any, as well as the chair of the HTC, on any enforcement that goes forward. I know we keep a list of that. And I know that there's, in fact, probably a couple that you all would probably have your eyes on, if you will, that's pretty prominent in a neglected stage at the moment. So I guess just if any members are concerned, reach out to staff and we can say, yes, that's on our radar, or no, it's not, and I did want to mention, I think the eyes and ears of a collective approach, I think, is very helpful. We can only do so much, as you know, but and it's, it's a team approach, but also there is this sometimes a lengthy process to get folks to come into compliance. Sometimes you're dealing with even having to go to court. There's various things that go on. I'll just give you a case in point of 6 Fair Street. I think that's actually an example of one that actually has a better outcome than it could have been. There were definitely people that were interested in that building, and not necessarily for the building that we now see. So yes, I think it's nice and appreciative that the HTC membership wants to have the historical commission members kind of help assist with that. And I think as a CLG, that completely makes sense. To your point, Rita, about having a discussion of it on our agenda every month, that might be a beneficial thing. Maybe for just commissioners, if you see something, let us know. But I'll be working with my colleagues in the office to make sure we have more of a robust, if you will, like a spreadsheet that's a little more tangible. Because, of course, as you're aware, not everything is contributing, but we have more contributing structures than not. So hope that helps.
Yeah. Great. And I think that would be good to sort of formalize so that if we as individual commission members, or even, if we hear from just someone, a member of the public who's concerned about a building, we can pass on the word that they can reach out to you, Holly, or reach out to the Plus department to see, has this property been cited before, are they trying to get into compliance? And then if if there's a property that we're concerned about, raises to the level of really being referred to the HDC for a potential, citation and fine, we can discuss that at a commission meeting before going ahead and sending in that citizen complaint form as like a potential more formalized process.
Yes, I think that'd be good to reach out to staff.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, moving on from there, next item on the agenda is we have the Community Preservation Act, the funding, the deadline for applications for fiscal year 2026 funding to the CPC is September 8th. So Holly, I know you had a few projects that you were thinking about. Oh, thank you, Angus. I skipped over an agenda item, which Angus just alerted me to. We skipped over the historic resource survey update. So I apologize. I would like to go back to that. Holly, can you update us on where things stand with the various surveys and the funding sources for those?
Yes.
Thank you.
So as you know, as our CLG status, we've applied to MHC. We currently still have the fiscal 23 funding, hopefully to extend that and update the RFQ, which I have initiated. I'm just waiting to hear feedback. I've explained in the past to the commission about the different software approach that the town does for their procurement processes, which is something that a lot of staff members, myself included, are trying to learn. So that's a little bit time consuming. Another funding source is the wind farm funding that we received. This was specifically to address those properties, one, that are owned by the town, that are scattered throughout the entire island and not necessarily in a certain location, which has been shown on our survey plan that we created with PAL, as well as to update those old 1988-89 surveys that might be in Macris, that we know those buildings are either demolished or were moved somewhere else and not in that current location. Those are something we do not want to have a consultant handle, but rather handle it with the funding source and project like this one. It won't be as prescriptive, if you will, in their process like it is with MHC. I did on MHC's standpoint, I did want to mention, if nobody has been following, Congress had approved fiscal 25, the historic preservation funding. That's that money that is allocated from Congress to the state historic preservation offices, and essentially 10% of that federal funding, SHPOs are required to provide to CLGs. We're one of 31 communities within the Commonwealth now since 2021 to be a CLG. So there is funding source from that. There's still, my understanding, and I know Mary's here, maybe she knows a little bit more, but we're still pending the fiscal 26 historic preservation fund. In my understanding, there's been a move to slash that considerably, which is affecting preservation across the entire country, from the National Park Service all the way down, with layoffs and all that kind of stuff. So something that we had mentioned about, and I know some commissioners have done that on their own as well as collective, pushing our representatives at the state and federal level to kind of get that going. And then the other funding source is our CPC, Community Preservation Coalition funding, that the town has been involved with since 2001. Obviously CPC is looking for projects that are preservation minded, and they have funded 2 projects with the University of Florida as well as us through the Historical Commission and myself, and that is to tackle the New Guinea, West Monomoy area, which is where PIN is currently working on this summer, which will extend into the fall. They're doing their reconnaissance survey, and that recon is going to assist into about probably a little over 250 forms. And I think, quite frankly, and I think I mentioned this before, this is going to be more of a pilot, more than what our fish lots pilot was going to be, because there's a lot of history that needs to be researched first before we just get a consultant to go handle doing surveys. And I think that's one thing that came out of the last couple of projects, is there's a lot of history that as well as a lot of you in the room know that you need to do some research on before actually completing our forms. And for those that are not familiar, the Form Bs for buildings with Massachusetts Historical Commission are very labor intensive. They are not the typical window shield survey, if you will, of a survey that we had in the past. That methodology is extensive, and even comparing it to other states within the country, it's not as intense. So I'm looking forward to seeing more information and process or progress with the PIN program this summer. They've been diligently working on that, and I believe Betsy probably knows a little bit more. I know she's been teaching them quite a bit. Glad to hear that. And we'll probably, like I said, extend and continue working with other CPC funded projects. I did want to mention to the commission, when it boils down to it, the CPC project process for our survey work is a lot easier from a procurement standpoint than any other process or any other funding source. MHC's funding source is great, but it's very prescriptive, very antiquated, in my opinion, on many different levels, and it's a lot of work. So there's that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And but just on that MHC funding, I know, it has been a bit of a bear to get it through procurement and to have another RFQ put out. But do you have any kind of estimate on when we will actually be able to put out another RFQ to hopefully find a consultant who will be completing those surveys?
I really don't have a I don't. uh, I've sent my respective information through they call OpenGov to my colleagues over in finance for procurement. I'm waiting, and I'm on different various things, different stages, because it's not just this. I'm also waiting to work on the HMP, get that out there as well, the hazard mitigation plan, my other hat. So procurement is my unfortunate concern at the moment. And right now, both the draft is with both MHC and procurement for them to give me the go ahead to get that out there. Again, the process for that has changed. I was able to solicit to specific places that MHC said, but now I have to handle everything through the procurement portal, which is the OpenGov process. So there's a lot of different changes, unfortunately. But hopefully I'll have more now that the new fiscal year for the town has changed as of July 1st. They're not going to be they'll be able to work with me on different things. So hopefully I'll have an update within the month or so, I hope.
Okay, great. And as always, if there's anything that we can do as a commission to help move that forward, please let us know. Okay, so if there's no questions there. Oh, Angus, yeah.
Oh, I just had a question about the MHC. I mean, it seemed like we were on a roll, and a lot of things have changed, as Holly's mentioned. But as far as the CPC, I'm happy that things are moving along with Penn and University of Florida. But do we need to is there anything that we can do simultaneously for further funding for surveys through CPC? Like to just continue with the surveys that we had begun with PAL.
Is that a question for me? Sorry, through you, Madam Chair.
It sounded like one. Yeah, Angus, was that your intention?
Yes.
Yes. So I've had a couple of conversations with Dr. Clary Larkin from Penn about furthering Penn's involvement with us through CPC's funded projects to basically tackle additional locations. I think that's what we would be able to do. Another project that actually is coming out of our survey plan that we did with PAL is the farming history and the farming locations on Nantucket. And so that's another kind of element, if you will. They may not create individual Form Bs, but they might create Form As out of that. And I think that's something that, we need to keep in the back of our mind, that any type of project that is done, it's not just for Form Bs. We also want those Form As, even Cs, the whole alphabet that the MHC had created. We want to be able to use that information and have it readily available for everybody in the public, so they know what information is available. That's the hardest part about the old 88, 89 surveys that are not available on Macris, is that people don't realize. And it's and as well as, or the lack of information in general. So just, yes, effort, I think, with CPC is going to be an easier thing. And I would look forward to working with other professional historians in the community that would be willing to work with us and fulfill these neighborhood that we've had outlined in our survey plan, because it is going to take a public and private partnership to tackle these 59 neighborhoods that we had to create, if you will. So yes, Short
I
answer.
think that that's what I was uh, more thinking about. I'm excited about the work that Penn is doing, but there are more resources in the community to. I'm thinking about, there are at least a few I can think about who can help with the surveys. But when is the next deadline? And is that something that we could possibly?
It's September 8th, which is why we had it as an agenda item for this discussion, but just before we move on to talking in depth about the CPC, I did just have one question regarding on the historic survey. Holly, do you have any idea of when the most recently completed surveys that PAL did, when will they be online on Macris?
I haven't heard directly from MHC on that. I know they're understaffed like everywhere else. I
Yeah.
think they may have finally rehired somebody to replace Jennifer Doherty, who left MHC, who was our local CLG state coordinator. But yeah, it's a slow process. I'd usually check to see, because some of those, you know how you can go on ArcGIS and you see the little red triangles. Some of those older ones are going to be updated with the new. So every once in a while, I'll go in to see. But no, they're really slow about getting them on there.
Okay, great. Or not so great. Yes.
Yeah, I've
Thank
been
you.
working with Penn this summer, with the students researching New Guinea, house by house, and the documentation that they're coming up with is really thorough. You're doing a great job, and I know they're excited to do other areas of the island as well.
Great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. All right, so yes, why don't we talk about more in-depth potential CPC applications? Holly, I know you had a few or a couple in mind.
Yeah, so I will be applying for CPC funding for our some of the aerials that the town has. I don't know if you're familiar with, if you go into the HGC's office and at Plus, we have some 1940 aerials. I think in the past they had provided some to the NHA, and NHA does have them in their database, but there's still a lot more. I believe we have 38s as well, and we have 57s. The 38s are on big boards, and from a retention perspective, they're definitely something that we want to have them professionally scanned and have available to the public. So that's something that we're going to be applying for. Of course, I've been given the go ahead for additional CPC funding projects for our survey efforts. So I would basically ask the commission, out of our survey plan, where you want to, what area do you want to continue on or get into? I think again, the work that Penn has been doing with the help of Betsy and others, I think is going to be that recon survey is so important. And I mentioned that the pilot really necessarily wasn't the pilot. The pilot of the fish lots had so much information, as you're aware, Rita, that MPT had already done, Betsy had already done. There was some, yes, deeds research that they had to do, but not as much. And as you think about it, as we grow, for instance, Wesco Acre lots, yes, there's been history that's been done that you all have done over the years, but that extensive history, there's so much that hasn't been done that I think the recon is definitely going to be the way. So baking that into a survey area with layers, if you will, of first phase doing the recon and the second phase for actual surveys is going to be important. And there was something else, and I'm sorry I'm not in my office because I have a sticky note that says CPC and then a couple of other different projects. I don't have it at the top of my head, but yes, I'm looking for stuff that the commission wants for us to apply for to CPC before their September deadline.
Okay. Great. So do you think, since we only have one meeting between now and that deadline, will you be able to have like draft applications for us to review, in August?
Yeah, I can do that.
That would be great. And then if, in the interim, if there's anything else. I'm not sure. Oh, Sarah, are you raising your hand? Sorry, or just adjusting your, okay, sorry. And in the interim, if there's anything else, that we as a commission want to put forward, we can, get started on that as well. Does anybody, any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, so Abby is not here to do the commission goals. So we'll skip over that for now, and I think we can just head on to approval of minutes, which we don't have, our June meeting minutes to approve, but we do have, a confirmatory vote of the April 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. So is there a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Thank you, George.
I'll second.
Thank you. So, George, on your motion,
Aye.
Angus,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
thank you, and I'm an I as well. Is there any other business before we adjourn? Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much, and we'll see you all in August on, let's see what date, Friday, yeah, Friday, August 15th. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.